Okay, everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Accommodation Show. This week, I'm joined by the wonderful Deana Steele from Keys to Kelowna Properties. Welcome to the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I've been looking forward to this day for a long time to connect with you.
I know, right? And we were just talking before the show, and you said, I've been part of your Facebook group for quite a while. We were talking about how we might connect in Canada. That's where you are in a few months' time. So it's for me, doing this show is such a pleasure to get to know the person, but also to get to know what they're actually up to and what they're doing. And your story is really fascinating. I love the product that you offer. So, folks, make sure that you check it out. And the show notes the links to the properties. But I'd love you to introduce yourself. Let everybody know kind of where you're from in the world and how you fit into the accommodation stroke STR space.
hmm So I'm in a beautiful destination that's very close to Vancouver, Canada. We're just about a 30-minute flight over the mountain range in a place called Kelowna, BC. We have a lake that spans 3 cities. We have about 200 wineries, golf courses. We're a destination. And when I look out the window, sometimes I see the mountains of Hawaii or the south of France with the beauty of British Columbia's forests. I'm like, we are not very many people know about us. Like we have world class amenities,
Yeah.
um, but we're lacking in the world class accommodation sector, which is where I have tried to step in. So we have. It's a very rare product we offer here. There are luxury homes, lakefront, very limited, very hard to get your hands on. There's a lot of people here that just hold the home. They'll use it for 3 days of the year and then it just sits there and no one gets to use it.
Mm.
So we are working on bringing those properties, building the trust with owners who own these homes, who don't need the money, which is very unique. They don't need the money. So it's how do you convince them to hand over the keys to someone so that we can offer another VIP or high net worth individual a really beautiful place to stay in our city. So it's a long game, but I'm super dedicated to it because I love this city and I love hospitality and the guests that it attracts. Just like it opens so many doors and even just the perspective of the world, like just who's out there. And I would say too that the luxury product that we offer is like a baby luxury into what is actually available globally. So I would
Hmm.
love to expand that here. I don't think a lot of people understand what true luxury is. And so, future me would love to develop a product here that would attract somebody like a Kardashian or Harry and Meghan or Harry and Meghan.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. And I guess that was going to be my sort of segue into sort of luxury. You know, what does luxury actually mean? And that's what we're going to cover. We will talk about what it means because there's different sort of levels of luxury as well. You know, for me, flying on an airplane and flying premium economy, that's a luxury, not flying economy. But then if you're not in first class, then for some people, it's kind of nothing, right? And you've got kind of all these different categories that have popped up in between, which I would say cater to different demographics at that kind of higher end. But uh, being in Canada, so I've been to BC before, absolutely beautiful. If you haven't been, I highly recommend it. And now you've got a contact to go and visit. So it's a beautiful part of the world. We'll definitely agree on that. It's great as well because where you are, you like you said, you've got all those different things going on. You've got all the wine going on. You've got all the mountains. You've got all this offering for people to have a really premium experience. And then you've figured out, hold on a second, we're going to carve out a niche in the market, or we're going to work towards a specific niche, and we're going to start to understand that. What is the value of understanding a niche?
Great question. I think it's not, I come from a marketing background. So that was the previous business that I was in this and, prior to getting into this space. And really tapping into the mind of the consumer. It's an exercise I think everybody needs to do, even just to like understand the people that make the world turn. So like diving into that, and then also creating something unique for people that they might not have thought that they wanted. So
Hmm.
diving into that niche, like again, here it's a different kind of luxury. And in BC, it's a different kind of luxury than I think other people are used to, because we're also tapping into the outdoor amenities that we want to bring in that are already, I think, world class in their own right. Like if you go to Europe, a lot of the um, outdoor space has been developed, whether it be agriculture or whatnot, whereas here it's just vast, and that could be determined as a luxury for someone.
Sure.
So yeah, just kind of I really love to dive deep on a lot of topics, and that's what I think is something that people, if they're interested in, diving into a niche, grabbing little pieces of whatever they've uncovered and studied is my version of that.
Yeah. And uh, I mean, you'd agree with me that when we think about niches, and when we think about that, we're quite often thinking about the guest, right? And we're thinking about the consumer, the people they're going to buy. And then we can start to really understand what it is that their needs actually are. And the needs of somebody that's traveling in a luxurious way is going to be completely different to the needs of someone who's visiting friends and family, someone that's traveling with their kids or with a pet. But maybe, luxury doesn't mean they can't travel with kids or pets, but uh, you're catering towards a different set of needs. So therefore, everything that you do, you can then market and brand it towards that particular group of people. Was it quite
Mhm.
conscious that were you kind of thinking of the guest first, or were you thinking actually there's a demand for this kind of product, let's try to fill it?
Well, because I've been operating in this space for a really long time, almost 10 years, I had those inquiries coming in through our direct book. So I knew there was a need and I just didn't have it.
Mm-hmm.
But the mistake I made when attempting to figure out the avatar, the demographic of the person, was who am I talking to? Because from my experience working with people in my previous businesses, that you would be speaking with the assistant, the executive assistant, not actually
Mm.
the client. So you need to
Yeah,
market. What I thought is you need to market to that person because you're speaking to that person. They're the one doing the searching, they're the one doing the communication with you, all while trying to understand what the actual client needed. So
sure.
but what I discovered was it's actually the client that's doing the searching, and then they hand you off to their assistant or gatekeeper or whatever. So I made that mistake originally, thinking that, okay, I've got to get to these people, and how do you get access to that list, and who's got these names of these individuals? Um, but yeah, they find, when they do find you, you end up talking to that individual, and then you get the handoff. So that
Yeah,
was
yeah,
one
to kind of
one.
work on all the logistics, right? The timing, the pricing, and all the rest of it. But they're the ones actually out there with the eyeballs and kind of creating that engagement. So you're trying to build that trust with that particular person. Now, uh, luxury is a really great space within our industry. It's very hard to it's a very limit. There's a limited supply of properties or offering that you can actually have, right? It doesn't. There's not a thousand. You can't just go and build a hotel with a bunch of penthouses or really luxurious locations. It's a very finite. That was the word I was looking for. Finite resource that you're trying to tap into, and therefore, if you can really start to um, own a territory or own an area with that product offering, which is kind of quite fascinating to work with and to deal with.
Mhm. It's actually, when your market isn't super saturated with the product, it's quite easy to break into, which is nice. I think my first, I would call it like trophy property, opened a ton of doors. And then once you're in that trusted network as well, even with the guests, you don't have to do much but nurture those relationships, because all of a sudden, once you're in that network of both homeowners and guests, they come flooding in. And while I don't think that there's a ton of loyalty, because I do think these properties, they're they're rare, but I also feel like the guests like to kind of collect them like collector's items. They don't necessarily want to stay in the same one every time, which makes my job harder because I need to find a new
Mm.
property with a lot of the same offerings, but just different for the guests. So it's once you get in there, you gain a lot of really good momentum. But it's there's still always a hustle.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the things that you said that I hadn't thought of, which I always know, is that, and this is quite often the argument when we talk about regulation of short-term rentals, that hey, you can regulate it, but the place would just sit empty. That a lot of these investors, especially on the higher end, they don't really need the money. That extra revenue coming in, they're happy to just hold on to it. And then it's kind of your job as a manager to say, oh, actually, let's almost do it as a community service, right? You're going to get that extra revenue. We'll look after everything, and that way you get to share that experience with other people out there
Mhm.
rather than not, and you can come and use it in the summers and that sort of
Mhm.
thing. So acquiring stock when there really isn't a financial pressure from the owner quite often
Yeah.
to put it up on as a short-term rental or a mid-term
Mhm.
rental.
Mhm.
And you're saying that that's one of the biggest challenges, is just convincing them
Mhm.
that it's a good idea. What are some strategies that you've found have been successful for you?
Again, that trusted network I really lean on. So once I have my perfect client, I ask them, like, hey, oh, can you let me know if you know anybody who may be interested? They end up talking anyway. So I'll get like some of the properties we have are side by side, because literally the neighbors, they talk and then they see the guests that come in. So I
Mm,
end up fielding calls from neighbors all the time. For them too, the financial incentive, they always have these insane numbers. And so I just try my best to get what they need. I'll come often with a client profile. I'll already have the guest in my inbox shopping. So I'll let them know, like, I've hosted this person. They're absolutely amazing. They actually only spend 3 days each week in the house because they use it as their home base, and they bebop around something just to see, if there's children. I know this gentleman with this particular house doesn't want any children in it. So it's a lot of manual, which I totally don't mind, but there's a lot of manual work with it where I am shopping for a guest. And sometimes I will just hunt homes down. My favorite thing to do, one of my pastimes, I love to walk, but I love to walk only in beautiful neighborhoods. Um, so I have these gorgeous note cards that I've printed, and I'll hand write a note to that owner. And again, it's a long game because they're likely using it that summer, but maybe they'll think of me next year. Or if I do have a guest, it's not a blanket drop a mail out like my competitors do. I see my competitors hanging their just printed cards on everything, and I'll just hand select the properties because they do have to be rare and they do have to have certain a je ne sais quoi that, again, these guests want as their collector's items. So I have to hand
yeah,
select them.
wow. Yeah, okay. And to be honest with you, because I'm not a multimillionaire, maybe this will date in the future, and I'm like, oh, he is a multimillionaire. It's sort of a world that I guess I'm not that familiar with, and I guess there's still some things that, I mean, you were saying sometimes the expectations are unbelievable, and I know that there's a certain amount of wealth which is out there, and you can do an awful lot with it. Uh, which can also make it seem very inaccessible for people, like, who are you, or who is someone that doesn't have all that wealth to turn up and put out a flyer or a leaflet saying, oh, I'm going to manage your property. You've never done any of that kind of stuff before, so that it's possible that you need to sort of learn your way in, start small, and then kind of grow into the bigger portfolios and those bigger properties. What if someone said, they're looking at their niche, and then they had already a base, right? They had some sort of a base. I've already got one property that I've managed, which is more in the luxury sort of segment, or kind of any niche. Like, what would be your approach to sort of when you if you're advising them, saying, hey, you're about to get started, you want to get into this space, what would you recommend they do?
Well, I really believe in people invest in or hire or sign with the person and not necessarily the experience. So I would say, just like, again, I love to just study the topic. I will listen to 6 STR podcasts a day. I will listen to real estate, whatever, so I can talk the talk confidently. I also believe in building relationships. I believe in the long game. So what I have done, this more for my guest profile, even though everything that I do, website, Instagram, I speak more to the owner. But on the behind the scenes on Instagram, I will literally hunt down VIPs that I know have come to the community because they have tagged uh, a local high end grocery store that they shopped at, and I see that they're in Kelowna, but they live in New York, but they're on a lakefront property or whatever. And I will message with them and DM them and just build that conversation. Same thing with like hockey players love to frequent here. I go in, I follow all the hockey players, the wives. Even if the counts are restricted, I request access to get in there because I know that one of them may stay with me. And then once I'm in that network, so that's what I love to do. I love to like just gain the confidence from the education. I'm big on self education and just go in there and build the relationships. Um, my business coach, Dan Martell, he says that you need to do at least 5 opens a day. Like, you can't lose. 5 opens a day is over 1,500 people a year that you're going to talk to, that you're just connecting with and building relationships
What
with.
does
And
it? I'm pretty sure I know what an open is, but can you just define that? What does
yeah,
that mean?
so you are starting a conversation, not continuing a conversation or answering someone's open to you. So you would reach out to them. I'm not a big I'm more of a passive salesperson where someone will get to know me, know what I offer, and they'll ask me for their support. So what I do is I literally just go in and I introduce myself, or just say, hi, I like what you're doing, whatever. Just send like a positive message outwards and just initiate the conversation. And then go from there. And if someone doesn't reply to you, they don't reply to you. And if they do, that's great. Like, you've literally made a digital friend, which they can make you an infinite amount of money through opportunity or connection or whatever. So I really believe that people invest and hire and work with the people and not necessarily the skill or experience. We all have to start somewhere, and I think people understand that. And if they like you and they feel that from you, you can break into this. But not to say that luxury is for everybody either. But if you are into it and you don't know it, because like, I'm not a millionaire either, I just love it. Yeah, you can learn anything, and doors will
That's
open
it.
for you.
That's some amazing advice. I love the idea of reaching out, and like having some sort of a goal is fantastic. So be it three, start off at three. 5, great, but get to three, and three on average a day, and you've got another 1,000 people that you've potentially talked to. Now, only if 10% respond, right? If 10% respond, that's still 100 people that you've got now that you've talked to and been open to. Where it gets really complicated, and I'm sure you'll agree with this, is once you have that many contacts, that then you've got to kind of keep up with it and make some choices. So I think that's really great for people getting started. And then you kind of think, oh, well, what am I going to reach out about? When I've got nothing to really talk about. And what quite often happens is especially at the start, it's really hard. It's really hard to actually have some sort of an offering. And quite often the message will be, oh, let's catch up for a coffee or that kind of thing. You will I think the other part of your tip there was learn your shit. And I'm sorry to swear, but it's literally, if you're curious and if you learn, you will start to be able to very quickly provide value. And the reason is that people have got so many problems that need fixing.
Mm.
It's not true. And you'd go, oh, well, Bart doesn't have any problems that need fixing. You know what? I've got a list of at least 100 different things that if someone came and they said, I can just fix this part for you, let me take care of it, I'll be like, oh, God, absolutely take it. But I need to trust that you know what you're doing. So if someone said to me, Bart, I'm going to take over all the social media management for iBooked.Online and just do all that stuff, I'm like, fantastic, great. Now, it's not a big problem, but if you know your stuff and you've learned about it, you can solve that particular problem. And I really love the idea that you're saying invest in your education around the space, and that way you can provide value back.
Yeah, honestly, nowadays there's just no excuse. There's way too much content. It gives me FOMO because I'm like, I have to listen to things like 2x the speed. And, I'm like in the shower, I literally prop my phone up and I just let the content play. I get so much inspiration from listening to other people. I've saved myself so much grief
Mm.
by learning from other people. I can spot something bad coming my way before it happens to me because I've listened and I've learned and absorbed. And I think there's just absolutely no excuse now. And it's so easy for you to build that confidence that is really hard to get when you're starting out
Yeah,
with
and I
those
mean,
tools.
particularly like with courses and that sort of thing, everyone wants a quick fix, right? They just want to buy the course. I'll teach you how to do blah in 5 days, and it just doesn't work like that. You need to spend time honing your craft, really understanding it, and then you can really do well. But it does take some time and some effort
Yeah.
and energy, and some inspiration to sort of get there. But you're doing all this stuff because you're trying to learn, but you're also trying to figure out what problems you can fix, and that's where you start to build your network. Some people go,
Mm-hmm.
oh, okay, cool, I do have
Mm-hmm.
X problem. Now,
Mm-hmm.
we've just been talking for 20 minutes already, and the time's flying really, really quickly. And I'm so conscious of the fact that this is a conversation we're going to have to come back to, and we're going to have to do more episodes about different bits and pieces. But I just want to bring us back to luxury for a second and that niche, because one of the things we started off with was that kind of definition of what luxury means. And we're talking about aeroplanes, and it's all in the eye of the beholder. And then there's also the limitations on what kind of stock you can actually get in terms of luxury, and what kind of people you're appealing to as well. How do we define luxury, or how do we start to tackle this problem?
I like to always remind myself the definition is organic and it will always be changing so that I don't put my blinders on or get so laser focused that I don't see anything else. But again, I think the rare opportunity, like if you were to look at the planes, we've got, 100 economy seats, we've got 20 premium, and we have 8 first class. And then if you want to step it up, then you're on a private jet and you're sitting in 2 of the 9 seats available on the plane. So it's rare. That's really important and unique. So a lot of people will build these. It's not just the value of the property. Usually, it's the value of the land. In my case, the land is worth way more than the home, and that's where
Mm.
the rareness comes from. There's only so many plots of land that have those amenities. Um, but yeah, just thinking about the it doesn't even have to be. I just stayed at the magnificent resort, and there's only 3 properties on this resort. Again, rare, very simple, beautiful design, and peace and quiet, hands off. So when these people come to me, the guests, they come with a team. They need absolutely nothing from me. I think a major misconception is that they're going to be really high maintenance. It's funny how
Mm.
many people tell me that. I'm like, I have had zero high maintenance. The only thing that, is we help coordinate a cleaner to come in the property 2 to 3 times a week, but they have a chef, they have a nanny, they are there
Mhm.
half the time because they're off doing things. So just providing that space for them and walking away.
It's it reminds me of something that one of a property investor taught me once before. He said, when you're buying property, you want to look at something which is unique, right? If you're buying an apartment, the issue that you've got is that you just bang up another thousand of them next to each other. If you're going to get the apartment, you want the one with the unique view or the unique location or something that is sort of like a barrier for people to not be able to replicate it, so that you've got something which is unique, which is the same as what you're saying, is that when we're talking about luxury and we're talking about your offering, it's about that uniqueness.
Mm-hmm.
There's a amazing lady called Amy Stanton here in Australia. She'll be actually speaking at our conference, and she builds tiny homes, right? So she's known as a lady tradie. So she'll actually, with her hands,
Cool.
build a property, and I can't build shit, so so I'm like it's incredible, right? Anyone can do it. So she's building these with her brother and putting them up, and then they're putting them on farmland which has got unique views, right?
Mm-hmm.
And like you're not going to be able to replicate that kind of no matter what money you've got. So it's not luxury, but it's unique and it's rare.
Yeah. Yeah. And I love that. I love that she's doing that. That's another project that we're working on now as well, just to create that rare, unique space. You could literally put, if Hudson Valley, New York, there's a beautiful property there, and it's just like a wheat field in front. That's the view. Where I stayed, it was just literally pine trees, but it was magnificent and it was a rare opportunity. So, another thing for my guests from my experience, especially with like some of the celebrities, they love the privacy. So if you can find a property that offers that in the city where we have some of our lakefront listings, they're side by side. So you step out on the dock, you might talk to the neighbor. Whereas some of our more rural properties, it's more
Yeah,
attractive to them. Like I had an actress, she wanted to be 2 hours away from set. She didn't want to be close to anybody. She just wanted, when she got home from her long day, she just wanted absolute peace and quiet and privacy. And that's rare for some people that live in really big busy cities. That's a
yeah,
luxury to them, like
yeah,
what you were saying. So
yeah.
again, that's why it's like it's kind of like you can't niche it too tight, because there's some different appeals to your higher end
To a
customer.
different marketplace. So and therefore your portfolio, even though it's kind of that luxury, you've got a range of different offerings for a range of different people,
Mhm.
and it doesn't mean that all of your properties have to be worth blah. It can just be, well, one's got more land, one's in one location that's it's got an amazing view. One of them is more suitable for kids or for pets, and all the
Exactly.
rest of it, but to a certain standard. Now look,
Yeah.
Deana, we're in trouble.
Uh-oh.
We've already come to the end of our episode, and
I
I
talk a
could
lot.
literally talk to you for another half an hour without much problem about this particular topic. But folks, if you are thinking about luxury and if you are thinking about niching, then this is a really good opportunity. On our next episode, what we're going to talk about is we'll talk about some of the pitfalls of niching as well. But obviously today there wasn't enough time to cover it, so maybe we'll do another one in the near future. Deana, what's the best way for people to give back, to get in touch with you, and to follow your journey?
I love Instagram. I love communicating in the DMs on Instagram. So my handle is at Keys to Kelowna. You can follow me there. I'm always active on that channel. And then if you're curious, obviously you can just visit my website and take a look at the portfolio and kind of how we have branded that space for our property. So it's keys2kelowna.com.
Awesome. Beautiful website. Definitely, if you've never heard of Kelowna, check it out as well on Google and have a look around. It's a fascinating, beautiful area with lots to do and a good one to look at. And Deana, will have to get you over to this side of the world, to Australia, so you can have a little bit of a play, discover, and enjoy as well. Thank you so much for coming on to the show, folks. If you are listening to the podcast, then give us a rating. Those ratings really help us rank higher on the platforms. So therefore, we can get in front of more listeners just like yourselves. Make sure you share it around, and you make sure you give us a follow if you're on the YouTube, subscribe, all of that stuff. I know it sounds boring, but please do it. It makes a difference. It really, really does. Dina, you're amazing. It's such a pleasure to talk to you today and to meet you. And I'm hoping that I get to see you in a few months' time.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. And 5 stars, everybody. 5 stars.
Love it. Take care. See you later.
Okay. Okay. Bye.